Okay, hi there, folks. This is Kim Willis. I run a business called Persuasion Pursuit, and I'm so excited that I'm about to go on to Prosper's show, Prosper's podcast show. I'm being interviewed. Oh, I'm scared, but I'm just so excited about it. Looking forward to it. Hope you enjoy.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a special treat just for you. Now, Kim, how are you doing, my man?
I'm feeling great, Prosper. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to your people.
Oh, the
With
pleasure
your help.
is all mine. At least we're not doing the whole door-to-door thing, right? We're just reaching into their mobiles. They wouldn't know, how to even get started with that. So they all they have to do is just press a button.
That's it. Makes it a lot easier.
Fantastic. And you must be wondering what it is that I'm talking about. Joining me is the man who started selling books door to door at just 18. And now he literally written the book on selling millions of dollars of products online. And this is Kim Willis, who has a gift for storytelling and just not just a mean once upon a time variety or, the prince or the princess type of stories that Disney has got us thinking that's a story. No, I'm talking about storytelling that actually converts. And he's here to share how he's overcome actually the fear of public speaking and also phone sales, which let's be real, guys, it's a lot of us can relate to the jittery and the nervousness that happens whenever you have to pick up a phone and call your clients. But he's actually turned those challenges into strengths. And the best thing about the Online Prosperity Show is we bring in the best of the best that can show us how to be, do, and have a happier existence. Or if you're in business, create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. But what makes Kim actually stand out in a sea of Me Too other storytellers out there? I'm guessing it must be the Elton John sunglasses that he sometimes wears, or his passion for helping others face their fears, or maybe both, because it's not easy, first of all, starting your own business. And as we have already reiterated that, picking up the phone and calling people to sell your wares is one of the, most scary things that anybody would ever endure. Well, let's get into his journey. First of all, we're going to be looking at his current work, and just for fun, we're gonna have we're gonna have a lot of fun with Kim today. So I want you to stick around because you don't want to miss why working with him could actually change your entire approach to sales and marketing. Now, Kim, I could go on and start yabbering about things I know nothing about. You could take me out of my misery. Tell me a little bit about your journey so far and what got you into selling books door to door.
That's a good question, Prosper. I guess some people might be a little bit curious about that, especially an experience that really probably wasn't meant to happen because when I was 17, 18, 16 years of age, I was very shy. And so why the heck did I take up a job to sell books? Probably more to do with my mum than anything else. She was an encourager, and she knew that I was incredibly shy. She said, when I was offered this job, I told her about it that evening, and she said, well, the worst that can happen is that you won't make any money, but the best that can happen is you'll probably become a better person. Okay, Mum, that makes sense to me. I think I better do it, even though I was terrified. So, yeah. So I took up this job. It's my first job, and it was about selling books door to door. The books were called The Modern Ways to Health, and I was living in Sydney at that time, Sydney, Australia, and I didn't know a lot about health. I didn't know a lot about selling books and stuff, but The manager put me through a training, and there were 3 or 4 other people during that week of training. And by the end of it, by Friday, I was thinking, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do good at this. So the boss told all of us, okay, we're going to allocate the territories here, and you're going to go out on Monday morning, knocking on doors, using what I've taught you this week. So in one sense, I was excited. In another sense, it was terrified. So anyway, I enjoyed my weekend, and then as we got closer and closer to Monday morning, I was starting to feel a little bit of fear welling up there. But Monday morning, I wanted to keep my promise to the boss. So jumped in my car and drove out to this, where was it? It was sort of on the south side of Sydney. And sat in the car, got to the street that I'd chosen to kick off with, and I sat in the car there. Just opening the door was a bit of a challenge, but anyway, I did open the door and walked up to the first house. Bang, bang, bang. Knock on the door. No one home. Oh, thank God for that. Okay, next house. Knock on the door, and I can't remember how many doors I knocked on before someone was home, and more importantly, someone would let me in. But it did happen. It was probably about 15 to 20 minutes, later. So I went into the house, and there I was faced with this couple, this married couple, and so I had to try and recall everything that I was taught the previous week by the boss, by the manager. So I pulled out my little kit bag there, my presentation folder, and just sat down and more or less started straight into it. And what was it? Maybe 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later, I'd finished the presentation, and guess what? No sale. All right. Okay. Well, the boss said that you will get a few rejections. Yeah, right. And but you've got to keep going. Well, even when you have setbacks, you must press on. So I thought about his words. I didn't want to let him down. So out I went, and to the next house and the next house and so on for, I don't know, another 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it was. And because I was only 18, right? So it's a long time ago. And then I finally got into another house and did the presentation, and yeah, no sale. And this went for all morning. No sales. I was feeling fairly despondent. Went to, I think it was McDonald's, had a bite to eat, and I thought, I'm really tempted to go home now, but didn't want to let the boss down. So I'll find another street and started knocking doors again, and same story, I came up blank, zeros by the end of the day. So big zeros, no hero. That was the message. And so I told my mum that night. She said, "Oh, well, maybe tomorrow will be a better day." I said, "Yeah, you're right, Mum. I've got to try and stay positive, even though it's terrifying me. The whole experience is terrifying." So, second day, nothing. Third day, nothing. Fourth day. And so I got to the end of the week there, and once again, it was a great big zero. No sales. So by this time, I was definitely ready to quit. So, but I decided I'll take the weekend. Spoke to my mum again over the weekend, and what happened was Friday afternoon, that first week, the boss called me, and he said, "How was your week?" And I said, "Well, do you want the good news or the bad news?" He said, "I'll take either." I said, "Well, the good news is that I got a lot of exercise. The bad news is that I didn't make a single sale." And he said, "Really?" He said, "Because the other people that went through the training, they all got sales." How did I feel? Oh yeah, great. Thanks, boss. He said, did you do all the things that we taught you in the training? And I said, "Well, I think so, because we did role plays and all of that." I said, "I think so. Maybe I got a bit nervous and I, forgot a few key points, but I tried to do it. He said, okay, well, it said, look, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come out with you on Monday morning, whether you like it or not, and we're going to knock on some doors together. Well, this guy was the #1 seller of these books in the world. It was an American product, Modern Ways to Health. And he was #1, even though he and I were in Australia. So very intimidating to have this guy go out with me. Anyway, I made the commitment. I said, okay, boss, I'll see you on the Monday. And that's what happened. We met up, started knocking on doors, same experience. But he'd watch me. He'd just watch me. He's taking notes. And got into a house, no sale. And he said, at the end of the first one, he said, okay, we're not going to stop now. I do want to talk to you because I've noticed some things. And I said, oh, okay, do you want to tell me now? I said, no, let's see if we can get into one more house. I just want to make sure that my opinion is correct. I want to just see what happens on the, so, after 20 minutes, whatever, knocked on a door, a nice couple let me in. They were actually quite friendly. They let me in with Stan, that was his name, Stan Rex. And it was Pastor Stan Rex because he was part of a church. And of which I was a member at that time. So, okay, got into the next house, did more or less the same thing, no sale. He came out and he said, I guess she's feeling pretty low right now. I said, yeah, I am. I really want to quit. But if you've got a solution for me, I'm eager to listen to it. He said, okay, we'll go and have a cup of coffee, an orange juice, and we'll talk about it. So we got there and I started drinking the juice. He said, tell me, honestly, think back to your week of in-house training and then compare it to what you did, and you did role plays during that week, and then compare it to what you've been doing for real in the marketplace. And tell me, honestly, is there anything that you weren't doing, or was there something that you were doing that you shouldn't have been doing? So I thought about it for a few minutes and I said, well, I'm probably not very good at asking questions, because that was a big lesson. He harped on it during the training time and time again. And he said, yes, you're right. And he said, why were you not asking many questions, if any? I said, well, it's probably because I'm very nervous and I'm scared of what the person's going to say. He said, bingo, you hit the nail on the head. You cannot move forward unless you solve this problem and you banish those demons from your thinking. I said, okay. And he said, there's one other thing that you weren't doing that we taught you. Or if you were doing it, you weren't doing much of it. It wasn't very good. You did it. The first one I did with you, you did do a little bit of it. It wasn't great, but at least you did it. The second one, you just abandoned everything. It's like you jumped ship mentally. I said, what? And he said, you didn't tell any stories. What did we teach you during that training week? You make a core point, then you illustrate with a story. So if you end up making 3 or 4 core points during the presentation, you're going to share 3 or 4 stories. I said, right. Yeah, it was a confidence issue again, boss. It was a confidence issue. I just didn't feel I was good enough to tell a great story. He said, all right, that's the thing. So you've got to fix those 2 problems. Number 1, you've got to ask more questions, and above all, wait for the answers. Do not fill the void with your voice. You don't say anything. The first person who talks loses, in a way. They weren't going to lose, but we wanted the prospect to answer the question so that they could benefit from the process. So that was it, bit more of a pep talk, etc. He left me to it. He said, look, go home. It's only lunchtime now. It's barely lunchtime. You go home, you think about all of this. It's up to you, but I hope you'll get in the car tomorrow morning by yourself and you'll go out to the appointed area. You'll take on board everything that we've talked about. You will implement, and sooner or later, sometime tomorrow or the next day, you are going to make a sale. I said, okay. So we said goodbye. I went home, thought about it. wrote some notes, told my mum, blah, blah. Then went out the next day on the Tuesday. Didn't get a sale on the Tuesday, but by that time I was galvanized because I did ask questions and I did tell some stories. And because I practiced on the Monday afternoon at home, I did tell some stories and they were pretty good. They were pretty good. They were delivered well. So I thought, I've got these two elements, excuse me, I've got these two elements working properly. So now it's just going to be a numbers game. And so I just pressed on regardless, then went back on the Tuesday, and then I made my first sale. And from that point, everything got a lot easier. I started making more sales, and I just the confidence boost, my shyness reduced dramatically. Just so apart from the money that I made, is just at a psychic level, phenomenal benefits that have served me well ever since. Now, I didn't remain as a bookseller. I didn't like it that much. I ended up going into, actually, with hindsight, even into a tougher industry, and that was the life insurance industry. And therein lies another story, another lesson. But anyway, yeah. So that's how I got started. And bottom line, I've been telling stories ever since, just as I've done today on this interview. I cannot help myself.
I like that. I like that. And what a great story. I mean, obviously, you took us on a journey of how it all was happening and, the challenges you were facing. And, you had a mentor and a hero that then came in, helped you out. And then eventually you are now sending the elevator down, helping others be, do, and have, an easier
Yep.
sort of, communication or, way of converting with the people that are in front of them. What a great story. And so many people, I think were actually glued on to really find out what was going on. And you told it so well. I'm guessing you've told this story numerous times now.
I have, probably thousands of times. I don't
Absolutely.
know.
But Kim, when you started, you introduced us to an 18-year-old who obviously was eager to get started. I don't know, maybe it's a sign of the era or whatever it is, but 18-year-olds these days are either just playing with their mobile phones and just, not even worried about learning life-changing skills like yours. What was actually happening in your environment at that particular time? And yeah.
What was the catalyst? I don't know. I just think some people are a little, well, they're kind of, I was going to say they're born that way, but that's not necessarily true. But I should give credit to my family because they're a very aspirational family, come from a blue collar background. But my family, including my mom, uh, father, grandparents, uncles, all of them were aspirational. They wanted more. They wanted a better life for themselves and for their kids. So it rubs off, So it rubs off. You become that person
Mm.
because you absorb it. There wasn't any strict lessons or anything like that. They were very liberal. It was a very liberal upbringing, but it's like osmosis. You just osmotically absorb what their way of doing things. You're an observer. Kids are very observant, aren't they? And they look at what their family is doing, and they just absorb that. So that was, that was definitely. I think that was a big part of it. And I didn't have a pleasant experience at school most of the time. So I think that also I was bullied, just unbelievably bullied when I was in primary and high school, and I think that was another factor because I had a fire in the belly, despite my shyness and all the rest of it. I wanted to kind of prove something to myself, and also prove to some of my schoolmates who basically said you'll never amount to anything. I wanted to prove them wrong.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so it was a combination of my upbringing. That's number one. That was the foundation, and also my experiences during my formative years, especially at school.
Absolutely, because I think representation matters because so many people might not have a reference point. You know, like you're mentioning, your family was there to obviously showcase to you that people like us do things like this. And so many people now might not have that sort of opportunity for them to have a place to latch onto. But besides the family, you also had a reference point that, culminated as the priest who or the pastor who
Yeah.
was also part mentor part boss, because from him you literally learned how to become who you are, the great storyteller that you have become. Now my question here is, how important is it to have people like that? First of all, your family, where you can borrow the confidence of, your mom always telling you it's going to be okay, and just not letting you sit on your laurels, and also having maybe mentors and people that you can actually look up to, which you have become one yourself.
Yeah, really important, and great question, Prosper. Yeah, really important. I mentioned that after I decided to quit selling books, um, I decided that I'm going to continue on this journey of personal development. Is it really a personal development journey? So I must continue to face my fears, and so that was decided. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing this selling thing. I'm going to learn more about selling. So I learned how to sell books door to door. I was then what happened? Yeah, I was reading. Yeah, I was looking for another sales job, and so I found something in the newspaper, and it was in the financial services industry. Blah blah. I didn't know anything about it. By this stage, I was 19, and I didn't know anything about it. But I ended up getting an interview with a sales manager he was based at the Chatswood office in Sydney, in the northern part of Sydney. And he interviewed me. He liked what I was saying, and did another interview. Anyway, long story short, he appointed me to for the training. So it was a 1 month training, big every week, every day for a month. This training program at head office, the company called National Mutual. They don't exist anymore. Well, they got taken over by a big French company, but yeah. So there was so my sales manager was a bit of a mentor, but he wasn't the one that made the big difference. It was after I'd finished the training, I started making sales very quickly, very easily. And I started with my warm market. They always teach, don't do door to door. This is not selling books. This is, you start with your warm market. And I knew quite a number of people my age in the church, and so I made out a list and started making sales very quickly. Then, but after about a year of doing this, I'd run out of my warm market. I didn't have any people on my list anymore, and so I had to look at other ways of meeting people, finding people, because you have to be constantly prospecting. Anyway, as luck would have it, a new hot recruit was brought into the division in Chatswood, and he was poached from another life insurance company. And this guy had already made a lot of sales, certainly more than I had made. He was older. He was about 29, 30 years of age. And so he joined the branch, the division. And after a few weeks, he befriended me. And we started talking, bantering, blah, blah, blah. Really friendly guy, very helpful guy. Gave me a few tips. And so I didn't think anything more of it. And then after maybe another month had elapsed, he called me in. He had his own little office because he was a big hitter, this guy. They gave him an office, his own office. The rest of us were in the cubicles out in the common area there. We were the plebs. Even though I was quite successful, and I made my first year, I made about $10,000. That's a long time ago, right? So that would have been at least 80,000
Wow.
in today's money, maybe 100. But so anyway, he called me into the office with one of the other guys that he had his eye on. His name was Roger. And he said, guys, I want to make you a proposition. I said, yeah, what's it about? He said, how would you like to double your sales over the next 60 days? Yes, please. Give me some of that, Robert. He said, well, this is how it's going to work. I will work with you for the next 60 days and I'll show you my method because you know that I've been making a lot of sales. I said, yeah, you become a hero of mine. He said, okay, I'll work with you. All you have to do is you have to introduce me to people. We go out together. I will do the work. You do the work of lining up the appointments and I'll do the rest of it. And you watch and learn, watch and learn. So he was my next mentor. He was my next mentor. So we had Pastor Stan with the book selling. Now I'm in the life insurance industry. About a year or so after I started, the new mentor appeared because the student was ready, and it was obvious to Robert that I was definitely ready. So he presented this opportunity to the other guy as well. His name was Roger, and he said, look, go and you both. Roger was married. He was older than me. I wasn't married. I had a girlfriend, but I wasn't married. And he said, Robert said, look, Roger, you go home and talk to your wife about this proposition. Oh, the deal was that you share 50% of all of the commissions generated, not just in the first 2 to 3 months, but for the rest of the year, even though I won't be working with you after 60 days or whatever it was had elapsed. That's a big ask. He would get 50% of everything for the next 12 months. Right? So anyway, Roger went home, talked to his wife. I went home and talked to Mum and told my new girlfriend about that. She didn't know much about that kind of stuff. Mum just said, oh, that's a big chunk. You're going to keep half? He's only going to work with you for the first couple of months? I said, yeah. She said, well, what do you think the potential is? He's saying you'll double your income. Will it be worth it? I said, well, so if I double my income over the next 12 months, okay, means at the end of the 12 months, I won't be earning any more than I am now by myself. She said, yes, that's a very good point, son. But I said, the advantage that I see is that I'll have this knowledge, these new skills, and the confidence that goes with it, so that the doubling of the income can continue into the second month, and I won't be paying anything to Robert. She said, that's a really good point, son. So anyway, I went into the office the next day and he said, okay, what have you thought? Did you talk to your mum? I said, yeah, and the answer is yes. And I'm ready to go. So then he also spoke to Roger. Did you talk to your wife, Roger? And the wife said, and Roger said yes, and the answer is no. And Robert said, why? Why did you say no? Oh, because my wife was scared that I'm going to give up half my commission, blah, blah, all of that. You're better off just keep doing what you're doing. So that was it. So I started working with Robert, and sure enough, within 60 days, my income doubled, but it ended up being more than that. So at the end of the year, the money I ended up paying Robert meant that the net amount that I kept was still more than I'd earned the previous year. And then moving into the second year after working with Robert, my income continued to move up. And so to me, it was a no-brainer because of the skills and the mindset improvement that flowed from that. So that was my second mentor. Yeah.
Absolutely. I quite like that because what it points to is obviously if you if you pay your way into most of these things, you will be able to actually get quality information. Yes, you might think it's a stumbling block, going into it. It could be a course or it could be a mentor who's saying, okay, I can take you on, but you got to put skin in the game. And so many people would just
That's
want
it.
certain things, just potted to them, without them having done anything. So all of these are formidable lessons that you are, gathering along the journey. And, very few people would have had access to the right people and the right
Yeah.
mentorship like you now have. But obviously there's a lot of fear that you're bringing about, either it's the spouse or people having a chat, and it's a common human emotion where people are just afraid of the unknown. And whenever there's so many terms and conditions, people are very skeptical and saying, if it was just as normal and as good as it should be, why aren't we just being given this as is? But you are helping people to face their fears and also be able to speak in public and actually make a sales. How do you help people confront those fears head on?
Yeah, another good question. Well, but just before I answer that, the just to sort of expand on your point, that I always believe that there's always a price to be paid. There's a price to be paid for doing nothing. There's a price to be paid for doing something. So Roger, the guy that turned Robert's offer down, he paid the price in terms of lost income opportunities, lost development opportunities, because he would stay more or less the same as he had been up till then. And interestingly, 12 months later, Roger quit the industry because he wasn't making enough money. Whereas I stayed in the industry for 15 years because of the lessons from Robert, my first mentor in that industry, and from another mentor that came along about 7 or 8 years later. And once again, he made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. So, and it's the same, bring it forward to today. Now, people come to me because they need help with their marketing, especially if it's online, because that's become my core specialty now. And I often say the same thing. Look, there's a price to be paid. There's the price to be paid for doing something, price to be paid for doing nothing. And you can continue on your present pathway without me. And your results are probably going to be more or less the same looking forward. Or you can come on this journey with me. Yeah, you'll pay a price in terms of money. You'll have to pay some money. But if you're a great student, your ROI, your return on investment, is probably going to be phenomenal. At least 100%, at least 200%, 1,000%, whatever. It's probably going to be phenomenal, providing that you're a great student. It's not all on me. It's got to be on you as well. Right? And they say, yeah, hopefully. Well, most of the time they say, yeah, I understand. I'm prepared to commit. I have a bias for action, blah, blah, blah. That's on them. That's not on me. But if people are prepared to pay the price, because if they don't do it, if they don't constantly have a commitment to skilling up, leveling up, becoming a better version of themselves, well, like I said, things are probably just going to be more or less the same. It might be incremental improvements rather than quantum leap outcomes.
And
Incrementalism versus incremental thinking versus quantum leap thinking.
Absolutely. I mean, incremental, you can go a little bit far, further, but with quantum leaps, you can go a lot further. And so many people don't quite notice, that it's those small little steps that actually, keep propelling us and wanting us to be more and have more. Now, in the process, you've actually trained thousands of people in sales techniques, and things of that nature. I mean, obviously, we've been introduced to you of going door to door selling books. I don't know if you would have been able to do that in Melbourne with the weather that just changes on you, and then you're carrying wet books
Yeah.
with you there. But what's From the people that you've trained and people that you have encountered, what's the most common mistake that you actually see people making when they're trying to maybe close a sale or start a relationship with the person that they are, trying to talk to, and how you're helping people overcome that?
Yeah, well, in the traditional world of sales, especially offline, face to face, in person, that kind of thing, a lot of it will come back to they didn't those original problems that I had when I was selling the books. I wasn't asking questions, wasn't asking the right questions, wasn't listening to the answers, and then interpreting the answers in a correct way for the prospect. And I wasn't illustrating, or that, not me, because I always illustrate with stories now, but they're often not illustrating with stories. It's those two areas: questioning, active listening, including active listening, and then storytelling. They're the big ones. Now, in the online world, obviously, since since when I was selling books and life insurance, online has become a bigger thing. And obviously, there's still plenty to be done in the offline world. But I've been in Asia now for 10 years. I haven't done any face-to-face appointments with people, none, in 10 years. So every dollar of revenue that's been generated has been solely from online means. And in some ways, it's a bit restrictive, but in other ways, it's a phenomenal training ground, because it means, I'm bulletproof. Doesn't matter where I am in the world, as long as there's an internet connection, I can make money. That's an incredible, freeing kind of a thing. But in the online world, it's not so much about closing sales in the traditional way of doing things. It's more about content and how we communicate with people via content pieces, whether it's written word, video, audio, whatever. And it's more about building desire more about marketing than it is about selling. So we've got to do more marketing. Even dyed-in-the-wool salespeople, they try and, move to the online world, but they take that offline sensibility to the online world, which is about hustle, 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 hustle culture and all that kind of stuff, and closing sales and pitching people on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever it happens to be. And then they wonder why they're not making any money after 3 months or 6 months has elapsed. That's because they didn't fully embrace the world of marketing. So we have to blend the two disciplines. And so from my perspective, I'm saying that it's more about farming than hunting in the offline world. In the online world. It's more about farming than hunting. And so we farm, we sow the seeds, we prepare the soil, we sow the seeds, and then we nurture the soil by watering it regularly. That's marketing, and that's more about content than anything else. So it just depends on what people are wanting to do. But most of the people that come to me now are wanting to do business on platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook. That's what or through other online means. And so for them, they need to understand the content game. And so I spend more of my time helping people with content. Before I came on with you, Prosper, I did a call with a new client, and at least half of the call was about her content, her LinkedIn content, and what we could do to improve it.
Now, you've obviously kept going and knocking on doors. You ended up in Asia. I mean, obviously, that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But you've also created a course. It's called Connect and Convert. Tell us a little bit about that, and how can people benefit from jumping onto that course?
It's a course that revolves mainly around social media, using social media platforms, especially LinkedIn, but also Facebook, because that's where I've had quite a bit of success. Okay. And showing them how to use these platforms, how to really connect with people at a deep level, and doing it without cold pitching and just being a total nuisance, making a nuisance of ourselves. So it's more farmer, not hunter. Sometimes, when we've got a lead, okay, maybe we've got to, ask for a sale, etc. But what I've found is that if we get the content thing working properly, when we do start talking with somebody, they're already at least 50% there towards doing business with you. They're already saying in their mind, I'd like to work with this person, right? So making the sale is actually the easiest part, because the marketing aspect did more of the heavy lifting. So what I've done is that I've distilled a lot of the knowledge and expertise that I've developed over decades, and put it into a course. There's 19 lessons, but they're not long lessons. They're each one averages about 15 minutes. So we give people small bites. They're video lessons, but more than that, we back it up with some support, a bit of one-on-one support as well. So they've got a human that they can converse with. They've got a question. They want to use this as a sounding board. They can do that as well. So that's the course, and it's a good way for people to learn more about this kind of stuff. They want to go further and get some coaching support or something like that. They can do that, but I think the course is a very good first step, and it's not expensive. It's hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. So I think it's a pretty good way to dip the toe in the water there and really start to move more up level the skill set. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you introduced us to Stan earlier on, who took you to the side and took you under his wing and really taught you the importance of storytelling. And pretty much from then on, you actually started getting a lot of results. Now, you're now doing the same for others, and, people are learning from you. And I can imagine there are so many, positive results that people are receiving from you. What has been the most rewarding moment in your career so far that you maybe received from having helped somebody be able to tell their story?
I've had a lot, but there's one that really stood out for me, probably more than most. I can think of several others, but anyway, I'll cite this one. This is a lady that I helped on. Her name is Connie, and I helped her on Facebook. Now she was struggling with Facebook, really struggling. She's struggling with the whole idea of social media. Let's face it, a lot of people are like that. In fact, that was me for many years until I started finally embracing it in 2016. So she came along, I think it was 2018, something like that, and she'd seen my success. She knew of me. She'd actually, I think someone was talking to her about me, and then she did a search and she found me on YouTube. She started watching my YouTube videos, and then she started looking at my posts on Facebook, etc. And then she reached out to me. She just said, "Look, I've watched about 12 of your YouTube videos. They're awesome. I feel I already know you." And she said, "I wonder if we could talk sometime." So anyway, she became a client, and she didn't buy a course. She just went straight into, she said, "I want to be coached one-on-one." And so that's what happened. Well, before I came along, she'd spent $12,000 on Facebook ads. 12,000. And how much money did she make? Zero. She'd bought into all sorts of other things. Another thing cost $25,000. So the Facebook ads plus the 25,000, that's 37,000. And nothing. Zero results. Within a month, she was making sales with me. Small to start, but then it accelerated. She ended up with 121 customers in a 6-month period. In fact, she acquired most of them in the first 4 or 5 months, but let's say in the first 6 months. And I don't think I've had anybody that's done it quite like that speed. So quick. 121 on Facebook, no ads, no advertising, just natural, organic methods. And we used a Facebook group strategy, which I taught her. That was
Congratulations
it.
on that. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
that is such a remarkable,
Yeah.
result. And you can imagine if somebody has spent close to 50K and got zero, and you bringing it back, for them like that is something hall of fame in the marketing type world. Now obviously you've conquered public speaking, phone sales, and now the online world. What's next? What's next for Kim Willis? What's the biggest mountain you're going to be climbing up next?
Oh, but I'm scared of heights. True. That's one fear that I haven't overcome. I also have arachnophobia, spiders. But anyway, I decided not to bother with trying to overcome those. The big ones was the big fears to overcome were fear of the phone, which I completely demolished that fear, and fear of public speaking, demolished that one as well. So they're the two big ones for me. But what's next? Well, moving more and more towards productized services, such as doing case studies. Now we do case studies for clients where they've got a great customer story. Okay, well, let's see if we can interview your customer. We'll put together a beautiful case study, a high impact case study. So in the process of taking some of these services and converting them into productized services so that we can scale up our business, because I'm in partnership with my son, my eldest son, and we want to scale up the business so it's not always dependent on me, the brains, trust. It's not always dependent on me. So then we'll have a team of people who will be doing the delivery. So they'll be delivering those services. My son and I, Damien and myself, will be overseeing the delivery, but it means that we can build a bigger business. So that's where we're heading.
Absolutely. I mean, it's remarkable the way that you've just built this up, and it's all come from obviously applying yourself and utilizing the lessons and borrowing the confidence from those that are around us, and now you're doing the same for others, so that they too can have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Now if someone is looking to maybe get more dream clients without wasting money on ads like you have shown us, or being salesy like what everybody else is doing online, how can they get started with your Connect and Convert course?
Well, I can provide a link so that they can have a look at it. If they want to,
Yep.
if they want to enroll, they can do that.
Yep.
Or if they want to have a chat, they can they can reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn. But I'm spending more time on LinkedIn now, but I still check in with Facebook at least twice a day. So I'm more active on LinkedIn, but the skills that I learned on Facebook, I've applied them to LinkedIn. So they're interchangeable more or less. And so if somebody is more Facebook centric, can probably help them there. LinkedIn, same thing. Or if they've got other ideas, I'm happy to have a quick chat in the messages. And no, I'm not salesy. I don't do
I
any
like
of
that.
anymore.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, Kim, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, obviously, your life story and your experience have got so many nuggets for people to actually grab on. I viscerally believe in life. We're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. And you've done precisely that. Obviously, you're still living your life, but in order for you to do that amicably, you went on and learned the skills, the storytelling and everything else that comes along with it. And now you're sending the elevator down, even though you're afraid of heights. But yes, you are sending the elevator down for those that want to learn. And it would be remiss for people to not take you up on that offer. So I will make sure that I put those links in our show notes so that people can actually take advantage of that. And I mean, obviously, you know, you've overcome some of your fears. And now you've mastered the art of storytelling and selling, which is something, like you said, you can take it wherever you are. As you are in Asia right now, you don't necessarily need to be locally based in order for you to actually have this going. So there's so many that if somebody just took or paid attention to what I just said in the last sentence, they would actually reach out to you, because obviously you've created freedom and eventually wealth for yourself, and now you're also including your son in the whole grand scheme of things. So thank you so much for the time that you really spent with us today on the call.
Yeah, and thanks very much for that, Prosper, and thanks also once again for the opportunity to be on your show. I really enjoyed it. You're a great host and interviewer.
Fantastic. I know I'm going to be walking away with some major insights. So, I mean, kudos to you. And I'm sure our audience too will be frantically, repeating or rewatching this particular episode. And if you're doing that right now, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on incredible guests like Kim, who are literally changing the game in the business world. It's no longer about closing sales like what Kim has elaborated. It's actually starting relationships and telling the stories that will actually become the glue that will get our customers to pay, stay, and refer. And with that, thank you so much. I can't wait, to see what else you're going to be creating in the future. And I really appreciate you for the time you've been on the show with us today. For those that are watching, be sure, like I said, to subscribe or share this with somebody who might be struggling to make sales within their business. It could be a matter of telling good stories that will help people get to know, like, and trust them while they're at there. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.